So this is a whisper. Would request one of you to, are you able to see
Can I
it now?
read, brother?
Yes, yes, sister, please go ahead.
Okay. Thursday, March 17th, 2016, 10 a.m. Life and death are merely states. They differ in order to accompany the development of the soul in search of purity through a deep personal commitment, one that leads us to the highest level of consciousness. Long is this way. When the horizon finally becomes clear, serenity settles in, fulfilling the aspirations of each person at this stage of his or her evolution. From one incarnation to another, the personality is forged, receiving in accordance with its calls and profound needs, which are necessary for the realization of the being in all its subtlety. Reaching the stage where such concepts are taken into account is an indication of a true advancement that allows one to proceed, to go further in meeting one's real needs as a seeker. Finding one's way and exploring its resources opens horizons onto the space, the beyond, as it is called. There are different worlds, they are numerous, and they provide the opportunity to explore the unknown and to discover a certain truth that is not easily accessible here below. Meditation, the overall practice as we propose it, speeds up the process and reinforces faith, which carries and sustains the human being on this initiatory journey of an incarnation. Human beings have so much to learn and do, not always go where they should. Human beings have so much to learn and do not always go where they should. Hence, the many incarnations required for their evolution. The Sahaj Marg path produces the best in this regard. It is up to all to be truly committed in order to achieve the goal. Babuji.
Okay. Can one of you contemplate and tell us what is coming to your mind from the first paragraph?
Brother, this
Yeah.
life and death is connected to the our soul's evolution.
Mhm.
Soul For our evolution is our life and death is needed for our soul evolution.
Okay. Anything more? Yes, brother.
Yeah, so Bauji is saying here like life and death both are merely the state like transitional, and the purpose is like the soul's search of the purity through a deep personal commitment so that we achieve the highest level of consciousness. And though the path is long, it is not uh, very short to say. Long is this way, they are saying.
Yep. And so from one incarnation to another, the personality is forged, receiving in accordance with its call and profound needs. So that is also important, I think. He's talking about multiple janmas there. That's what I thought. Anything else from the next paragraph? Any other views? Then we can get into the presentation. Yeah.
Like suddenly people have become silent post Bandara. I don't know whether it's still the effect of the Bandara. So we would want you to kind of warm up and come forward. It's a very profound message, that's for sure. It's not a very, see, last few sessions you had a very simple message, far more easier and straightforward to understand. This is far more profound. So you might require a bit of time to kind of ponder about it. There are a huge number of things that is actually indicated in these two paragraphs. Vidya
Yes.
sister, go ahead.
Go ahead, sister.
Good evening, brother.
Yeah.
Here, what I feel is, mastering is really trying to explain that there are different worlds, not really different, but there are numerous of them. And we get an opportunity to explore the unknown, which is means from this world, like where we are living, that we don't have any access for this. And it is not easy also to discover certain truth. So, but meditation, what he's emphasizing is the overall practice or sadhana, which is proposed that what we are supposed to do, speeds up the process of reinforcing the faith. So that is what I felt. Because human beings, Master tells has so much to learn, and really we do not really always go where we should. So
Yeah.
we need to be incarnations. Not that maybe in one incarnation itself we can, but because we do not go where we are supposed to, all this, so many incarnations are necessary. I think that's what Master is telling us.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Sure, sister.
Srinivas?
See, what I understand from this Babuji message is he says we have different worlds to explore. In fact, it's quite numerous. And here is an opportunity to explore this, but somehow we get lost in the way or something. But when we practice this Sahaj Marg meditation, it will hasten the process and we should be able to explore this one. Which otherwise requires many incorporations to explore these different worlds, he says.
Okay. So somewhere one thing, okay, Brother Ananta, please go ahead.
I think in this paragraph,
Mhm.
I think Master is saying there are different worlds, right? And then later he is saying the certain truths that is not easily accessible here below, right? So I guess in some ways those different worlds are, I guess, subtler and higher in some form. So and there you can actually explore the unknown more and discover a certain truth. So it just looks like as we progress, more becomes visible. That's how I understand that. And then meditation speeds up this process, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have a better idea of the truth, right? Yeah.
Sure,
That's
brother.
how I read that. Yeah.
Yes, sister, go ahead, Nirmala.
Brother, I think what they're trying to say is that we are not just the body and we are not just the mind. We are not even the persona that we have constructed, but we are a spark of the divine that has forgotten its source. And what we are missing here is just that remembrance. And we are travelers who are searching for that destination. And in doing so, we have to go through several incarnations, life and death, and before we reach that destination.
Okay. There is also meditation is almost given as a tool here, right? Overall practice as we propose it speeds up the process. So though this world, the world where we are living, is difficult to, understand everything. Meditation as prescribed, if you do it, it will reinforces the faith and carries. That is another way of looking at it. But yeah, go ahead, brothers. I think there are a few others who have raised their hands.
Vishweshwara?
Yeah. Good evening, brother.
Good
What I
evening.
understand from this paragraph is that the journey that we have to perform is quite long, and perhaps it takes many births in order to achieve the goal. And the one thing which has to develop is the reinforcement of the faith. And to achieve this reinforcement of faith, meditation is the tool. So even though it is in multiple births that we have to achieve, but if you have that meditation as the core process, and we do that in a sincere way, it will reinforce our faith, and we will make our journey easier and probably more complete. That's what I think in this process.
Just two questions. Good.
Yes.
What is it that actually delays? Why is that it becomes necessary for?
Brother, it's our deviation from the central core process. We are getting diverted because of our own involvements in the form of desires or distractions. No?
Don't say answers outside the message. Just look for the answer inside the message.
Okay. Yeah.
Brother is highlighting that point. Human beings have so much to learn.
Yeah, we have to
They
learn
do
the
not
process.
always know where they should.
Uh,
That is the problem. People
Okay.
do not go where they should. Now,
Okay.
you set the goal. What is the goal according to this message? See, there are two paragraphs.
Yeah.
When you read the first paragraph, it evokes some kind of vibrations and thoughts in our mind, feelings. When we read the second paragraph, it has the same thing. And then we have to connect the dots between the two paragraphs. That's how you read the message. The message comes in one flow, according to one trajectory on one particular issue. Now,
Okay.
according to this message, what is the goal?
Finding one's way and exploring the resources that is the one which I feel will take us to
Highest,
the
it is the highest
Level of
level of
consciousness.
consciousness.
That is the goal. He
Okay.
says the development of the soul in search of purity. The purity of the soul is what the soul is searching for. Please remember. The purity of the soul, that is the underlying basis of all the incarnations.
Oh.
See, if the soul is pure, absolutely, there is no need for any incarnation. That is the most central thing. What the soul is searching for is purity. Now, in the context of the soul's search for purity, the life and death are two different aspects. That's all. Now, what exactly happens even we are in life? We get an opportunity to look at ourselves. What happens when the person has died? The soul gets an opportunity to look at itself without the body. Either way, looking at oneself is not going to stop. That's the first thing. You continuously look at yourself. Whether in body, outside the body, doesn't matter. That's the first thing. That's why he says life and mere death are merely two states. That's all. Because the process of the soul looking at itself continues, whether you are in life or outside the life. Second thing, now the soul can look at itself at multiple levels of subtlety. So when the body is shed here, depending on where the soul kind of ends up post death, it continues to look at itself, and then from there it continues to evolve. Now, human birth is an opportunity also, is an also impediment also for this growth. That's why there's a saying in Kannada that there's a song, Kaliyugadali Harinamava Nenedare Kulakotigalu Uddharisu. Of all the things, of all the yugas, Kali Yuga is the most difficult time when you can actually remember God. If during this time, if you can remember God, not only remember God, but actually do practice meditation, that is going to help you to evolve to the highest. Of course, there is a big challenge. The challenge is that we are having the human body. When we are living, because of the presence of the body, it appears that some of these practices will be difficult. However, when the soul actually sheds the body, it gets a much more clearer view of the goal in terms of the purity or in terms of the consciousness that it has to evolve towards. And that is what he is actually saying. So, human birth is both a very big opportunity and also an impediment as long as we have the body. So, Lalaji writes in 44 Whispers that you will be able to do much better than what you are doing in terms of your work after you have actually shed the body. This is what he says to Babuji, that you will become more effective in your work after you have shed the body. Now, this happens to every soul. The soul becomes more effective in looking at oneself when it has shed the body, the limitations of the body. That's why, as far as the journey of the soul is concerned, life and death are merely two states. All that is happening is the soul is looking at itself continuously in terms of trying to purify itself. Because it's the impurities that actually holds the soul at a lower level of consciousness. The more the soul actually becomes purer, the more higher the level of the consciousness will the soul evolve to. Okay. Now, obviously, every soul when it's incarnated for the any time, it actually goes on changing its plan. For example, we have come into this life, we have one plan. After we have actually evolved and had the death in this life, and then we reincarnate the next life, we have another plan. So that's what he writes in the third sentence: from one incarnation to another, a personality is forged. Now, we should not confuse this personality with a material personality. That's not what we are talking about. In psychiatry, we talk about personality disorders. That is not what we are talking about here. A personality means here a spiritual personality which will take the soul to the highest in terms of the purity. That is the kind of personality that we actually forge. Okay, I'll develop one skill now, which will take me a bit more purer compared to what I came in with. Next life, I'll take one more aspect, which will make it be even more purer. So, in other words, if the purity is the basis for the journey of the soul, multiple reincarnations actually doesn't matter. Now, That is why in the second paragraph he talks about the need for the faith. Why is the need for the faith? The need for the faith is there because the meditation not only increases the faith, you need to have faith that this is what you are actually trying to achieve, the purity of the soul, which will take you to the highest level of consciousness. That is the faith that you need to have. If you look at this life from that perspective, what is going to happen is that it becomes very clear that whether it's life or death, it's a continuous journey. We will not worry too much about all these aspects, provided we settle ourselves on the fundamental aspect of the purity of the soul, which is the basis for all the incarnation, until we go to the center. Okay, and he also gives you a reassuring thing that Sahajmarg system, the way it is practiced, can actually take you to the highest in one life, provided we do not get lost or get distracted. The trouble is that most of the human beings gets distracted. When they get distracted, that is when actually they lose the time, and then that's when the necessity for multiple reincarnations come in. Otherwise, one life is adequate. And Sahajmarg system actually takes you to the most core of the system, the core of the practice, which is the meditation. Meditation is the core of Sahajmarg system. Now, with the meditation that is practiced in Sahajmarg, it can actually take you to the highest level of purity of the soul in one life only. So that is in essence trying to connect to both these things. It's a very profound message. And just go back to the first paragraph, brother.
Sure.
Now this, he's also giving you a hint what exactly happens when you actually reach the goal. That's the third sentence. When the horizon finally becomes clear, in other words, the goal is right there in front of your eyes, serenity sets in. What happens? They say a feeling of settledness, a feeling of serenity. Serenity is intense silence is serenity. Sometimes we say after the session is over, it was very serene. That's what we say. It is silent, but at the same time very subtle. So silent mixed with subtlety gives rise to serenity. So what happens is serenity sets in. Now what happens at that time? When the serenity sets in, all the aspirations of each person. Now you might have started meditation with whatever, but the aspirations of each person is actually fulfilled according to their evolution. That is what happens. So he's giving a clue. When you reach the final goal, this is what will be the condition that you will actually reach. A kind of serenity. You know that Buddha says, an intense peace took over me. When he got that nirvana state, an intense peace took over me in such a way that I could just feel peace everywhere. That's why he was so intensely, profoundly peaceful that he actually preached peace as one of the core features of Buddhism. Peace and non-violence. That's what he actually spoke about. So that intense peace, once you taste that peace or that silence or the serenity, it's kind of very difficult to kind of let go of. So it's a very profound message. He's giving you a lot of things. And remember, what happens after we shed the body? We go to the next level. Again, we look at ourselves. And now we make a plan to evolve to the next level of subtlety. Then after we have achieved that, we take the next incarnation. Again, we actually go to the next level. So at every level of subtlety, you go on actually reincarnating. Now, however, with the Sahajmarg system of practice that we've got, we can continue to evolve in all these levels of subtlety in one life only, provided we actually adhere to the core practices and not get distracted.
Okay, brother. Thank you. I think there's one more hand raise, Brother Vishesha.
No, I finished. I just mentioned it, brother, that
Okay,
meditation is
fine.
the core process, and we require many lives. Anyway, Brother Raghu has made me realize that the ultimate refinement of consciousness should be our goal. Let's see. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. Anything else? I see one more hand raised.
Sorry, just one realization as Brother Raghu was explaining. I got a little bit more insight into why we say purity weaves destiny. So,
oh, okay. That slogan that we have, right? Purity. Okay.
And the realization of the being in all its subtlety. The being is so subtle that you cannot say that it's a being. It's something beyond the being and non-being. So that's why he says that it takes a lot of time to reach that level of subtlety where the realization of the being can actually happen. It's a very, very profound message. So anyway, we will share the slides, sir. Please
Yeah.
have the slides and then ponder over it after you've got the slides. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank
Manikandan, you
you.
wanted to say something? I think you raised your hand, then lowered it because you could not wait. You started aching.
No, actually, I was also about to explain, but you have very well uh, explained to us. Thank you.
No problem. That's okay. Thank you, Pa.
Okay. I think hopefully you can see my slides now.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the other book, Efficacy of the Raj Yoga in the Light of Sahaj Marg. It's relatively a small book, so I think just like any other sessions we have had, I'll try to present what is there in the book. We will all discuss questions and any thoughts that you get. Some of it we have already done. We did the whispers, so I'll move on to the chapters. These are the chapters in the book. Um, I think Brother Raghu also keeps saying it. This is a very important book because Babuji Maharaj has actually written this in a higher state of superconscious state that he was in. So if you look at the chapters, there are two distinct things that are at a high level, if you want, this book is talking about. One is Raja Yoga as a technique in general. What is Raja Yoga? Babuji has described it. Then slowly introduce the Sahaj Marg uh, meditation technique and trying to see how is it how it is incorporated Raja Yoga, and also on top of it made it more modern, more easier for the people of this times to follow. And the second half, basically, it looks at all the regions: heart region, mind region, central region. There is a very, very clear description of how it looks, what is going on. So it is more in terms of the journey that an aspirant will go through or Abhyasi will go through. So with that, we'll begin. My Master is the first chapter. So My Master, you've seen this, most of it, Lalaji Maharaj's quotes and all of that. So the first one I would like to, you know, Babuji has given a very good, I would say, introduction to how his master was, Lalaji Maharaj was. So he says, great men are not accidentally born. This is a very famous statement, but when the time needs them most, they do their job and go. Such is the phenomenon of nature. So it's a nature's prodigy. Lalaji Maharaj came in just to help the nature. And power of nature descended in the human form as Samarth Guru, Mahatma Ramchandraji Maharaj of Fatehgarh, or Farrukhabad. So we mostly know all of this, but I'm kind of just going through it. He was born on the Basant Panchami day, 2nd February 1873, in a respectable Kayastha family. One aspect that you will have to look at, especially from the book again, is the state of India. India in 1873 or 18th century or the early 19th century. Um, Babuji describes that the state of spirituality was really bad at the time. The nature really wanted somebody to come in and do the correction. So that is in that context, Lalaji Maharaj was born, and that was his. It's like a gift from nature to set right the things that were happening. Especially India was, though at one stage it was in a highly evolved spiritual conditions in the country long time back, but that was not the case in 1800s. I mean, obviously, we all know the history throughout of British era, and so many other caste-related things were happening. People had really forgotten what is the purpose of life. People had really forgotten uh, what was this real spirituality about. It was mostly about divisions and caste-based things. So, in this context, Lalaji Maharaj took birth. Let's move on. So this is a very famous quote again. He's attained perfection in only 7 months. Really an unparalleled example. You should really understand the gravity of it, right? We take our abhyas takes so long sometimes, and we keep on. I mean, just this whisper also talked about it. So obviously, being a prodigy of nature, this is something not very unusual, but still he attained perfection in only 7 months, which is still an unparalleled thing. So we'll mention that here. There is a little bit of some background about his early life. He was born in a Kayastha family, very simple family, but mother was a very pious lady who was into bhajans and also a lot of singing and all of that. He was brought up in a very comfortable but still very loving family. But at one stage, he really was playing with his friends, and there was some realization that he was not born for this. As usual, nature when intervenes or nature has brought in such personalities, such incidents will happen. And he was suddenly arose that or realized that he was born for something else in life. That is the spiritual the requirement that he was supposed to do. So the story goes that he went on to started looking himself more in a different way, though he was still growing up as a child. So those are some of the examples from his Lalaji's early life, which is mentioned in the book. Another one is again from a examination, or even if I have to tell uh, some of the quotes that we get is this: the first line that I've mentioned here is an embodiment of dash dash and dash, embodiment of moderation, toleration, devotion, devoid of egoism altogether. Okay, forget the examination, but really contemplate on that. Imagine somebody who is, of course, moderation we'll all achieve over a period of time, probably, but he was the embodiment of moderation, toleration, and devotion. The important thing is devoid of egoism altogether. So that was something which is striking. We should understand that. Another major thing which Lalaji's contribution that Babuji writes about in this book is he made it possible to attain perfection. The second point I'm writing, perfection in one life. Again, we'll go back to the whispers that we were talking. Don't, if there are so many incarnations available that a person goes through, but with this method, which was discovered, you can attain perfection in just one life, that too leading a very normal grihastha life. So he was one of the first proponent to say so. And he also was of the opinion that you all have to balance material as well as spiritual life. You have to have a material life and go through that ups and downs, which will help in your evolution. So that was a very important aspect. And another aspect that Babuji says is the discovery of central region. I'm not sure, but at least from what I understand, there was no so much excerpts or detailed explanation of central region before Lalaji Maharaj. So Lalaji Maharaj's research, of course, finally the book came through Babuji. The research on central region and how it is and what you feel in central region, all that is attributed to Lalaji Maharaj. That is his research and discovery. I don't think people even knew that there is something existing as central region. Um, the Sahaj Mark system, which finally got named as Sahaj Mark, is obviously derived from what Lalaji Maharaj did as a simplified method of spiritual training to a great extent. And the biggest thing is in the current modern times, we should be able to lead a normal life and also practice spirituality. That is the greatest, I would say, contribution there. The last point is about spiritual dignity. He devoted his whole life is completely about service. We have read quite a bit about it. Babuji Maharaj writes with such reverence and devotion in these 2 3 pages about Lalaji, saying that he his whole life is devoted for the upliftment of humanity. So with our masters, I think the tradition still continues. Another important point is he left his material form, that is a body perform at the age of 58, just 58, on 14th August 1931. I think I'll pause here. Most of it must be knowing for all of you. Is there anything you want to add or anything you want to discuss? Yes, sister? Please go on. Hand raised.
Sorry, brother, I was on mute. I was not aware of that.
Okay.
So I'm saying on page 128, the second para, where it says, "It was he who made it possible that one could attain perfection in one life only." So, brother, out here, I just wanted to understand the meaning of perfection. Is it merging with the center, or what it is?
Yeah, I think merging with the center is, I mean, now with the current, somebody can be on mute, please. Okay. Yeah, that can be considered as merging with the center or being perfect. Perfection is what, that is our ultimate goal as well. You're right. So, in my opinion, yes, that is what is considered. Brother Ashish, you should be on mute, please. Thank you. Okay. With the current Bandara message, you also saw about that merger and beyond merger also aspects of it, right? But yeah, I think I would read it as like that. The perfection of a human being is obviously living in that state. I would say at least central region. I don't know if Brother Raghu has other opinions, but I think that is the perfection.
Okay, okay. And brother, one more question I have. It's regarding this Lalaji only. Like he has attained in 7 months what Babuji has mentioned. So did he also had any guru, or it was by his own this one? Because I don't know why I'm asking you. I got to know some of the person just mentioned to me that Lalaji also had a guru.
Not written in this book, sister, but I think as a history, we know that there was some Maulvi Saab who was also somewhat, a Sufi saint who
Okay.
was instrumental in making sure that the initial trainings were given.
Okay.
Beyond that, I'm not very sure. I myself not sure, but some aspects of that Sufi saint is attributed as one of the.
Okay, because that sister asked me also, so I was also not aware. So I thought I
Hmm.
will just check with you since we are covering the chapter on
Yes,
Lala.
yes, sister. Yeah,
Thank you, brother.
no problem. Yeah. Anything else? 1 minute. I'll just stop the share and reshare it. But oh, you're going through the book as I do this. I didn't know that. Okay, fine. That's good. So in the book, if you think anything else is there, let me know. We can discuss as I stop this and reshare it. Just give me a minute. Okay. I think that was it about the first chapter. Actually, then we can, if there is nothing more on that, we can go to the next aspects. Yes, Rajat, brother.
Yeah, hello, brother. So at times, I'm not sure about the fact. Some people say like Lalaji's soul was the first incarnation and it came directly from the center. Uh, any background on this one, or this is this?
No, it's nature sent him is what I can understand, but I don't know that aspect
Yeah,
whether he came directly. He should have to from a highly evolved person, right? So like Lalaji should have come from there. But yeah, in this chapter, in this book, at least they're not mentioned about that.
that's true. Yeah.
I had some notes here, but I'm not sure how I can share it with you. But that's what I'm trying. Okay. Fine. So nothing, some of it is you see these introductions in other books as well in the sense about his master, but I think I've covered most of the material here. So let's go to the next one. Um, Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga, through various other sessions, I'm sure you've discussed something about different yogas. How many, Bhakti Yoga, all those. How many yogas do we know? Anybody wants to answer?
Three yogas are
Different
there.
types of yogas, right?
The Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and what's the third one?
Jnana Yoga.
Jnana
Yoga.
Bhakti, Gyan, and Karma Yoga.
Okay. So Raja Yoga is another form of yoga, as it says, is the king of the yogas. I mean, that's a very simple way people say it because it is a Raja, it is the king of the yogas. So we will explore in detail what really this Raja Yoga is about, as written by Babuji here. Mm, this is something which is not new. It was there, the introduction of Raja Yoga. If somebody says who discovered Raja Yoga, it is by a great Rishi. The point number one that I've written there, who lived 72 generations before Raja Dasharath. And this Rishi is still swimming in the central region, even now, being mostly attached to the center itself. That is the definition Babuji says. So that shows how big the center is, how big the central region, and also how big the journey is, how long the journey is, right? So what did this first Rishi? Now, actually, there are some more information that Daji has given in another book about the Jain Tirthankar. So if you try to, that is not there in this book, but if you try to connect that, I think the first Tirthankar of Jain is the Rishi that he's mentioning here. His name was Adinath, or what was that? Uh,
Rishabh
what
Dev.
was it? Hmm?
Rishabh Dev.
Rishabh Dev or something like that, right? Rishabh
Yeah,
Dev. I remember that. Yeah, that is not in this book, but I think with that connection, most of us know now that he was the first Rishi that they are talking about. There are some fascinating things about him, actually. His, son is Bahubali that they have in James. They have the Bahubali, Shravana Belagala, right? His second son was, he was a king, actually. Adinath was a king, and then most of the Jains become monk after they relinquish their kingdom and then go for penance. Same thing happened there. He's such a revered saint, and his son is Bharat, under whose name or Bharatavarsha, this whole country that we are, is named. I mean, these are something that I just read and I thought I'll share that with you. So a lot of history there. So what really how this Raj Yoga came being is how we actually, I mean, there was some kind of a thinking that happened by this Rishi at the time, trying to see how can he achieve a real freedom. Look at the point number three there. How could we solve the problem? So there should be some way to go back from where we came, or how could we? It's not just doing the penance and all of that. So he thought a lot and then finally discovered a method which is now actually called as Raju. So we'll see what really he thought and all of that. There is in Raja Yoga, one of the things you should understand is there is the power of thought. So the Raj, or the kingly that we talk about, the king or the biggest thing that we talk is our thought. So even in our system, of course, we'll come to the system later on, but it's just as an example. Everything is thoughts, right? Or the suggestions that we give, or whatever we think will happen. So how did we? So this is a great discovery. Imagine at so many years back, 72 generations before Dasharath, such a long, long time back, he would have originally thought that using the thought power, you can go back to where we came from. So to explain it in a certain slightly different way, Babuji has used this example of Shob or Upadan Karana. Shob, we have again, I'm sure you have discussed in so many other topics or so many other book readings here. So Shob is defined as a stir of some power beneath the center, which brought the world to the existence today. So there is a stir that happens beneath the center, which is responsible for all the creation. That is the show. What this rishi realized is that that same power, or that power that came from this show, is also identical to the thought power of the man. So isn't that a very, I mean, it's a great discovery, in fact, that we also have the same divine power in ourselves in the form of a thought. Ultimately, that will come through to the mind. And why don't we use that thought power to go back? Or go back is the next step I'm going to talk about. Use this thought power somehow to attain freedom. That was the process that the Rishi was thinking about. Now, thought can bring powers which are unlimited. So you got to take the work from the thought power. So how to take the work from thought power? That led to the discovery of basically this Raja Yoga. Now, Babuji says a lot of sages have improved this concept, adding their own personal experiences. But the original thought came from this first sage, and then it kept on improving. He uses a word, clairvoyant vision. Thought ultimately develops into a reality, and it creates a clairvoyant vision. Any idea of this clairvoyant vision? Have we talked about it in the past? What it could be? If not, we'll park it for now. We can go. Basically, think of it as a way you will see as it is, right? You'll see the reality as it is in a naked form, that they say, not really covered with anything. So that kind of a vision you will develop. The force or the power that is there with us, this thought power, will establish the link with the God. So underlying the last sentence which I've written in, underlying thought is a state of the vision that a man must develop. This enables one to see things as they appear in the true perspective. So with the thought power that we are talking about, we will be able to look at the reality as it is. Because ultimately we'll have to get the freedom, we are going towards reality. So this thought power is what it is helping us. Okay. In summary, if I have to talk about all of this, we'll have to remember what is Raja Yoga standing for. It is the king of the yogas, but the king part is the thought. And the thought, how did we get that thought power? It is the same show that happened, which is the cause of our existence. It is also existing in us in the form of a thought. We are using that power to go back to the center or go back to where we came from. It's a very interesting and great discovery, I would say. Now let's move on. Any questions or anything? Anything people want to add from the book? Okay. So I just represented the origin of the human mind, which Babuji writes about. I hope this is the picture. So there is a dormant will of the God. So when there is Shob also, we talk about the will of the God, right? There is a dormant will of the God. And that will is responsible for the creation of Shob. I thought the Shob is a ripple that I'm showing here in the picture. Let me go through this picture, then we'll come back. Okay. And that created the universe, or creation and animation came into picture from the force of the show. Now that the root force that is there in the show descended in all the human beings, in all the beings, not human beings, in all the beings, in the form of a human mind. So now we are talking of, if somebody is asking you what is the origin of the human mind, how did we get the mind? Babuji is explaining it like this. And it has the same dormant will of the God. Because you need a will, and I think we discussed sometime about will and the willpower. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, brother.
Because
Yes,
I'm getting
yes,
so
brother.
many
Yes, sir.
calls. I thought maybe some of you are calling to say not everybody are.
It's very clear, brother.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we might have discussed something on willpower and willpower, the power that is there in the will, right? So that same willpower which caused this show also is there in the human form, descended in all human beings. The mind has the backing of the same willpower or the will of the God. That is how the human mind came into existence. This is important because there is some confusion. Some people say, what is mind? Because when we talk about our system, we always talk in terms of three things, right? Physical, body, mind, and soul. These are the things we also say. We also say Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, all of that. So this is with what Babuji has written, I was able to depict it like this. Any questions here? Anything you want to add? Or anybody has anything to ask? So functions of both mind and original stir, both are identical. So what does it mean? It can create. The original stir created the universe, right? So the mind also has a creative capacity. So we all know that even the human mind, it is very fertile. You can do whatever, whatever you set your eyes on, you possibly can do it. But that is a different story that as human beings, probably we have gone on a path which is slightly different from what originally God intended us to go. But at the same time, you have to understand that that power is there, power of creation is there. The stir and the mind are identical, the functions of the stir and the mind, and they're all backed by willpower. Is that okay? We can move on. Next, he generally, Babuji jumps into another aspects of our, because remember, the chapter is about Raja Yoga. We are trying to say, first we talk about Raja Yoga, not yet about Sahaj Marg. So Babuji has very clearly said, what is it, how does a general philosopher's approach anything related to God versus how the sages in India did it? Because we have to also appreciate that lot of good things that have come from the ancient India rishis and say Raja Yoga also is a contribution here, which we just learned. Things like that, it could be Upanishads or whatever. So it was all through a certain framework, or I would say certain way our rishis or our culture was, ours meaning Indian culture was. So in that context, Babuji says, sorry, can you mute please? So in that context, Babuji says there is a difference between, the way philosophers or sages approach in the Western world versus in India. First thing is they all look at reasoning and logical, very logical. Logical again. To me, it means we are using our mind. Whereas in sages in India, they are mostly in vision. We are looking at intuitional capacities, which may not be there initially. He says it will develop over a period of time, but they rely more on that vision. Again, vision is clairvoyant vision. You look at that word clairvoyant vision. They talk about something. I look at it as something as is you're looking at it. There is no parda, there is no layers to it. Because reasoning causes error, there's a chance that there is a second point if you look at it. Reasoning can cause error or a defect. Whereas if you look at it as a vision, you'll always look at the original form. Why this is important is if you are not sure what you want, or you're not very sure of where you're going, I think the method also would be wrong because your reasoning could be wrong. You end up doing something else. That has happened, right? Something else you might be looking at. So most of the general philosophers, non-sages in India, general philosophers, when I say, I'm not saying they're not in India, people, let's say ancient India versus the general philosophers, attempted before practicing. So before even knowing, we start writing thesis about it. We write a lot, we theorize it, but no practical, example at all, or not practical understanding at all. Whereas in India, sages in India usually did a very practical life. We have got so many examples of the rishis of the ancient times, which they led a practical life. They were doing day in, day out sadhana. They were first not ready to talk about it. First, they wanted to experience and then they talk. So that is important. The next point is philosophers say it starts from doubt because we also start like a hypothesis in the scientific world, right? We want to prove this or that, which is right, which is wrong. So we always say, or we may all actually negatively start saying that there is nothing like this, and then we start going on trying to build reasoning of why it is not there. Whereas Babuji says we should start from wonder. The stages in India always start from wonder. So this is also a very famous line from the book. You might have read it also. We all start from wonder. Don't start from doubt. Always start from wonder. Okay, and then express based on theoretical knowledge, expressed after the abhyas is complete. It is similar to what I said about practical life. And Babaji also mentions that if at all you're talking anything, it should be from the central region minimum. Because when you say something, um, at least that would be perfect if you are able to visual, if you're able to see from the central region. The way to look at it is like the mountain peaks. The more you go higher, you can look down a valley. I think again that example is given in the book by Babuji. If you look down the valley from a higher elevation, you can see things clearly, right? So don't attempt to start expressing based on what you see at a lower levels. I mean, this is for the highest philosophy I'm talking. You wait till you go to the central region, and central region, whatever you say, mostly it will be perfect, is what is being written here. And from all of this, there are six schools of philosophy. We just mentioned the six school of philosophy in this book, but I just went ahead and looked at it. Not very sure on each of it, but we can look at it: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya philosophy, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, and Vedanta. With all of this kind of, I mean, again, the background to this, brothers and sisters, is that he's telling sages in India go through all of this, and finally we came up with the six schools of philosophy, Vedantic philosophy. So that is what is being talked about. Any questions? Okay, I see a hand raised. Yes, please. Go ahead, sister.
Good evening, brother.
Mhm.
We say that, status in India look at the vision and intuition inside. The clairvoyant vision, whatever you are saying. That is the first stage if one goes in before going into other parts. So you say that anything is you visualized from the central region will be correct. But at that time when the clairvoyant vision comes or thought comes, will not be in the central region, right? Will be in the first stage. So whatever that visualization we do, is that correct or wrong? How do we know?
No, I mean, Victor, what we have to understand is he's telling more from the ancient rishis, right? They did not say things from a lower level. They experienced, went to a higher level, and then they started talking about their philosophy. And the sixth school of philosophies came from there. That is what he's talking. I don't think he's talking about the experiences that we may get during meditation. I don't think that is about this is about that.
Actually, no, that is not my question. We were talking about this also, that everything starts with a thought,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Right. So that is what my basic question is, that thought, whatever we get, whether that thought is right or wrong, at that stage we won't know.
Oh, okay. Shine. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do one know that the thought which has come to that person is the right thought? Um, like how to differentiate?
Mm, I mean, if you talk of general thought, you're telling whatever comes to your mind may not be correct, and
Uh,
how do you know whether it is correct or wrong, right?
yeah, and let us take as a vision, like, let us take as a goal, whatever the goal may be. So if there is a thought that this goal has to be achieved, at that time when the person doesn't know anything, he's in the starting stage. So that person, whether that thought, whatever he taken up is right or wrong, will not know.
Yeah, there is a chance of misleading, correct? There is a chance if there is not in a right system, right method, may not know what is going on. Correct. That is possible.
Okay.
I see more raised hands, I think. I don't know who was first. Yeah. Yes,
Brother,
sister.
as per the stories from Sanatana Dharma, only sage Markandeya saw the pralaya, the cosmic deluge. And many of the other Marshis had various experiences in terms of astral travel, going there and conducting a lot of experiments in different universes also. And they have their specific role in play, especially the Saptarishis. Like in our professional life, they have this Ashada Masa and Dhanur Masa, which is used for six monthly, whatever targets or yearly, whatever the targets are given to the. So the Saptarishis are in charge of the many work which is happening in the cosmic world, and they do the feedback. They take the feedback what works have been done by various masters who have been assigned, and then they review it twice in a year. Once during Ashad Masa and the second during Dhanur Masa. That's why that 1 month of practice, which we now see in a different form, like going to the temples and all, was not there in the earliest. They used to do rigorous practice, meditate, and then get these kind of visions. And then they used to share it in the Gurukul system. That's how it was in the earlier days.
Hmm. So can we say it is more like intuition finally coming into a vision? Sometimes it is also intuition, right? Oh, but the sages that we are talking, they already had a vision. That is also there, correct?
Yeah, it's not intuition. Intuition is very different. They actually experienced it and then shared it. Going,
Okay.
like, say, if you want to share the stories of Mahabharata,
Hmm.
they went to that Akashic record, experienced what happened in the case of Mahabharata, and then came back and said, "This is what actually happened," recorded in Akashic record. That's how it is. Not just reading any library book and then telling it.
Got it.
No.
Got it. Got it. So it's all based on practical
Yes.
vision or an experience. Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. Sure, brother. I didn't know about that Shadamasa,
Like
but
the earlier
perfect.
thing references you are giving to Jain Tirthankaras, no? The version of truth is different. What we see in textbooks and everything, which everybody knows, it is not the truth. Like the first Jain Tirthankar actually was Mahabali. That's why when Jains come to Gomateshwara here, it is they named the first Jain Tirthankara as Rishabh, his father, because only he was enlightened and his brother Bharat was not enlightened.
Hmm.
So they had to give one name, and because he did not have any legacy, they named his father as the first Jain Tirthankara. And his timeline was 8190 BC. And then the 24th Tirthankara, this Mahavir, was 3900 BC. See the difference in the timeline.
It's not a
Very.
continuous. Yeah, that is not a continuous. I heard it
And
is a
even
flow.
in that, Jains believe one of the Tirthankara was Ravana. But Ravana's timeline, like Ramayana was 4300 BC, Mahabharata is 4000 BC. So then you can connect the dots. Why he is also one of the Tirthankara.
That I don't know, brother. Slightly diverging there, but yeah, I mean about the Ravana part and all that. I don't know about that. But I was referring to the book that Daji had written, or Daji has co-authored, I think, about the Jain Jin. So you are saying basically Bahubali is the first one, is it? Instead of the
Yeah, and
Jain.
because
Okay.
Bharat and the name India Bharat is not from this Bharata or from Shakuntala Bharata. It is Bhava Raga Tala, Bharata. Bhava Ragatala. That is how India was named as Bharat from the beginning. It is Vedas, like say 40,000 years old Vedas. That is when our land is named after
Yeah,
that.
there's so many different versions, right, brother?
Yes.
Because I also see some people say this is again written in the book, whatever I just said.
Like if you
So,
see only those who carried the oral tradition, see the oral tradition is 40,000 years old. It was written in Lipis in 7000 BC. So you can imagine the difference.
Brother,
From there on, when it
brother,
goes to print, you can change
one
anything.
minute, brother,
That's
can
how
I
it is.
stop you? Can I
Yeah.
stop you there? It's been becoming a kind of dialogue. So
yeah,
only
yeah,
thing I
sorry.
want you to keep in mind is that whatever Daji has written, he's also kind of added that spiritual dimension to it. What you are talking about is only from the perspective of the historical records. So just keep that in mind and let's move on. Let there be
Okay.
differences, not to worry about it. Okay? Please go ahead. Rima sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must have chosen.
On this slide, you says that general philosophers starts from doubt and sages in India starts from wonder. So, is it
Hmm.
the experience of the sages? What why wonder? I want to understand this little bit more, brother. What does it mean out here by
No,
wonder?
doubt is a negative kind of a thing. I don't know whether it is there or not. That kind of a negative connotation is there. Here you say like it's so much wonder means it's more of excitement or you don't know what you're going on a journey. For instance, it's an adventure. You're going on it, right? What would be your state of mind there? You are excited, right? That from that perspective, the wonder should be there instead of saying I don't know whether it is there or not. So don't approach God or the source with that kind of a doubt. Always approach with wonder.
Okay, basically with a more exciting journey. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the state of wonder is more like you don't know what is going to come, but you're excited about it.
okay, okay, fine.
And in terms of the six schools that we were talking about, just one sentence. All the sages approached the subject practically. That's what is written in the earlier point in the same slide. The sages in India approached, led a practical. All the sages that we're talking about, all the six schools of Hindu philosophy, has come from a practical life perspective. However, what happened was each of the sage reached a certain level of enlightenment. Now, enlightenment is used in the context of what Babaji uses the word here. That if you cross the first point, you are enlightened to that extent. If you cross the second point, you are enlightened to that extent. So, if you look at it from that perspective, each of the sages progress to a certain level. Once each of the sages progressed to that level, and they thought that they had reached the highest in terms of enlightenment, so they actually preached that. What they had actually got out of the life of experience, practical life. Now, the basis for that could be vision, basis for that could be intuition, but that is not the issue here. Each of them led a practical life based on either vision or intuition. They felt that they had achieved some level of truth or some level of reality experience, and they actually preached about what they actually had the experience about. So the Nyaya school came about, and they thought about Nyaya is the highest. Then the Vaisheshika school came about. They preached that the Vaisheshika school is the highest. Then the Samkhya came about, and they said they are the highest. So each six schools. Why is there are six schools? One confusing thing which is there in this slide is that vision from the central region. That's what he has written in the last point there. None of the people who are actually talking about here actually reached the central region. Because central region, as far as we are concerned, in the spiritual history, this is the first time that has been described. It's never been described in the past. The central region as such, the central region or the seven rings of splendor, none of those things have ever been described in the spiritual history of mankind. That being the case, it becomes very important to recognize that as with every other branch evolving, spirituality is also evolving. Then you cannot
Okay.
say that there was no spirituality behind. There was spirituality in the past, and all those things they've actually evolved to a certain level and preached from that level of reality that they could actually access. As we go higher and higher, spirituality is still unfolding right in front of our eyes. Even in our own system, if you just look at the efficacy of Raja Yoga that we are going to do now, only A and B points were discussed. C and D point came about later on. So the point is that we need to keep this openness in the mind that spirituality is still unfolding. Now, if you just look at the Bandara message, what is the Bandara message? Bandara message is the merger and beyond. The journey beyond the merger. Now, all of us have been taught from day one that merger is the goal. But what Daji is now talking about is that we are still unfolding and then we have a journey beyond the merger also. And we need to keep our mind aligned to that also in that particular direction. So just keep this perspective in mind that spirituality is still an unfolding story. There are still lots of things to be explored in spirituality. And if you can approach spirituality in that spirit, that will be the best thing to happen. So don't take this confusion that it is from the vision of the central region that all these 6 schools have come about. No. All the 6 schools have not come about from the vision of the central region, because if you link up these two things, you'll get confused. None of them actually had the vision of the central region. In fact, Babuji writes in the complete works, volume 1 only, that it was the invention or discovery of Lalaji that the central region was found, that human beings can actually go there to the central region even while actually being alive here. So don't get confused about this. Each one preached according to the level of enlightenment that they could get during their life. And they believed that was the highest. Like if you take the scientists of the past, each of the scientists, in fact, Einstein did not believe that there is something called as quantum physics. He said it was very spooky. He did not go with that. Now that doesn't mean to say that it negates the entire quantum physics. It is there. So there are people who pioneered in that particular branch of science, and now it has evolved over the last 100 years. So we need to keep in mind that even the best of the scientists can actually err when something new comes about. They might not necessarily have that, ability to grasp it in the right perspective. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I think we can just move on, brother.
Sure, brother. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Let's go. I think that was it for today. That was what I had prepared. That would cover 2 chapters, Raja Yoga and my master from this book. So should we stop and take some questions, or how do we do, brother? Do you have anything to add? Oh, I see so many messages. Okay. Now I'm seeing it. Anything to talk?
Any
I think some topic. Yes, brother.
I have a question in the meantime on this. See, in that in the first chapter, there is the thing about you could attain perfection even while leading a family life. And it says he used to say that troubles and miseries of Grahastha life are the penances and sacrifices for spiritual attainment. What? I'm trying to understand this penances and sacrifices as a part of that spiritual journey. I'm just wondering, what is the connection there?
Connection, see, troubles and miseries related to sacrifices, penances and sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
I think miseries will, I mean, it's general, right? It will make you hard. It will go through, if you go through something which is tough, it will make you tough. Also, you'll have all of that from that perspective. Or in a family atmosphere, obviously there is adjustment. It's not like only your way. You stay in your own world and lead your own life versus being a grihastha. You'll have to take care of your household, children, wife, any other people, parents, etc. Right? So that would lead you into the life of actually sacrifices. The ego also will be tuned or kind of it will be refined by those experiences is what I would read it as.
Yeah. Okay. Relating that,
Mhm.
I'm just wondering how this penances and sacrifices had anything to do with spiritual attainment, leave alone grahastha life. I mean, you see some of these and you read about all this in stories and stuff, right? How people
Uh-huh.
go through all that, right?
Uh,
So,
no, he's trying to say, I mean, suppose in a layman's word, you want to do the tapas and sacrifice, you got to sacrifice everything. Say, look at life of Buddha or somebody, he just went off right from his home. That kind of a thing. I mean, if you really don't, again, you look at it from that perspective, you don't have to do all that. Just leading a grostha life will help you do that penance. Penance and sacrifice is, I think, a layman term that we use for sadhana. That he is probably attaching that to the grostha life here.
yeah.
To just add to that, brother, for the first time, Lalaji has said that your normal challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis can become the foundation for your spiritual journey. Normally, what we think the spiritual journey is about doing our sadhana, which is our meditation, our cleaning, our prayer, all those things. Of course, they are part of the sadhana. But what Lalaji is now hinting at is that if you actually handle the day-to-day challenges that you face in a normal family life, grihastha life, that is the best enabler or accelerator of your journey. He is talking about in the context of people doing various penances. People used to fast for days together. People used to take very arduous pilgrimages. People used to take vratas. So many other things that people used to do to get what is necessary for spiritual journey. Here, all that he is saying is, please learn to handle whatever happens on a day-to-day basis correctly. That's all. Easiest thing to do. Now, the moment we are in the family life, we are bound to have challenges. No family life is ever going to be bereft of challenges. All that Lalaji is saying is that don't do anything else. If you do your sadhana and handle the challenge that you face in the family life, that will be the best thing that you can do for your spiritual journey. In fact, if you just look at it, Daji in this recent Bandara only, he said, what did he say? He said, I would go to the extent of saying that being sannyasi is a sin. That is what he said. Because that deprives you of the challenges that you can actually are forced to face in a family life. When somebody takes a sannyasi, a vow that they are not going to get married, they are actually depriving themselves of one of the biggest way of shedding the samskaras. When persons do get married and they have children, they have to learn to accommodate the needs of other people in their life, whether they like it or not. They have to share the space, they have to share the money, they have to share the time, they have to share their love, everything. There is no question of you actually being very selfish in a family life. Whether you like it or not, in a family life, to some extent, that selfishness will come down. It's virtually impossible to be selfish fully in a family life. So, for the first time, Lalaji is saying, don't do anything. Learn to handle the challenges that you face in a day-to-day family life, and that itself will be a biggest catalyst for your spiritual journey. That is where the 10 maxims came about. That's why we spoke about the 10 maxims. How do you handle the challenges that we face in a day-to-day life? Now, if both the person who is in spirituality and the person who is not in spirituality, they are both going to do the same thing, then what's the point of actually being in spirituality? There's no reason at all, no? No. the basis on which you handle these day-to-day problems should at least be different if you are in spirituality, as opposed to somebody who is not in spirituality. Because in spirituality, the subtlety level that you actually achieve during your practices becomes the basis from where you look at these problems and try to handle it. Now, if at all you want to have one general formula for it, very simple thing. From the subtle level that you are going to face the day-to-day challenges, are you able to handle the day-to-day challenges in such a way that either you can maintain that same level of subtlety or you can actually make it even more subtle? If you can do this, that means you are able to handle the problem well. Provided if we handle this in the right way, then the challenges in the family life, that can be an enabler, and that itself is the penances and the sacrifices. If we do not handle the problems that we face in a day-to-day life well, then this is not of any use to us, because then we will fall back on just the core practices. When you incorporate this aspect of the grihastha life, our practice now becomes 24 hours. It is not going to stop with the core practices. Okay.
I think also in Maxim 5, he's talking about this being accepting miseries and being thankful to them. So
all the maxims talk about that only. How are you going to handle the day-to-day challenges in life? All 10 maxims are going to help you spiritualize your normal day-to-day family. That is the purpose of 10 maxims. If 10 maxims is correctly implemented, every aspect of our existence, 24 hours, it becomes spiritualized. Then there is no question of saying that no, I have to be engrossed in this material activity, I have to be engrossed in spiritual activity as two separate activities. That will not happen. You could just check with Jaisimha himself. We were just talking about his own journey last few months back, how spirituality and materiality has now become more integrated than what it used to be in the past. And that happens without our knowledge. We can actually learn all these things and put it into practice. Without our knowledge, the normal day-to-day life itself actually enables our journey to the next level. So we are not wasting time. Why does Sahaj take you to the highest in a very short period of time? Because if you put everything into practice as far as our day-to-day life is concerned, the miseries or the challenges that we face in a day-to-day life is concerned, as the basis for our evolution, then at whatever stage of our life, we will be bound to have challenges. And now we are using the same challenges as a fodder for our journey. And nature is going to create challenge. And I'll just give you one simple clue. In spirituality, all the challenges come unannounced. It will come at the time when you least expect it. So the spiritual test you cannot identify if you're not alert and aware. Just now, before, while the session was going on, I was just speaking to somebody else and I was just telling him the same thing, that the spiritual test comes unannounced. The time when you expect it the least, that's when it comes. And you are least prepared for it. Until unless we develop that awareness and alertness, we will not be able to identify this as a test. Very simple thing I'll tell you. You are engrossed in office work. Suppose you are very busy. Some urgent work has come. And you are literally kind of busy with that. Then at that time, some spiritual work comes as a test. How much are you able to kind of prioritize this over that? It's a very simple thing. It can happen to anybody on a day-to-day basis. And if you are not able to prioritize the right thing, then that test is like an opportunity lost. That's all. It's not like you are going to fail in anything. There's nothing kind of failure. It is just an opportunity lost. When you lose that opportunity, then you have to wait for your next turn. And again, remember, next turn is not going to come announcing. It will come unannounced only again. Again, you have to be alert and aware. So this is the challenge of spirituality. How much alert and aware are we developed? And this person that I was speaking to actually has been telling me for the last 3 months that their awareness is growing. And it was acknowledged also. The subtlety has been growing, sensitivity has been growing, awareness has been growing. But when the test came, the person could not handle it right way. And I was just giving a feedback. This is what has happened. So it's a very, very not so easy thing. And Lalaji himself, so many people test Babuji. And Lalaji also tests him. And then after Radhaji, you remember that Daji talked about it this time around in the Bandara. The last test from Radhaji. She said, I'm thinking of something. Now you tell me what I'm thinking. That's the test given. And Babuji is supposed to tell. And then after he tells that, he says, what would have happened if I had not told you? What would have happened to your name? That's what he says, tells Lalaji. Then Lalaji says, look at this fellow. He's not worried about failing the test. He's worried about my reputation. What is going to happen to my reputation? That is the kind of love that Babuji had for Lalaji. And he passes the test. And then after that, Lalaji is now, love takes over and says that nobody should anymore test Babuji. He's had all his tests done. He's passed in every test with flying colors. Nobody should do any more tests. And in fact, one person tests him after that. That's there in the 44 whispers. And Lalaji is about to, what do you say, give reprimand to him for having tested Babuji in spite of him telling him not to test Babuji. So, anyway, that's a different point altogether. But if at all of us have to learn only one lesson, it is this, that how do we handle our day-to-day challenges? Are we becoming heartful in the way that we handle day-to-day challenges? If how I'm handling the project, the challenge today versus what we were doing 1 year back or 2 years back is the same, that means we have not developed to that level of subtlety. Because if the subtlety is the basis for us to handle a problem, then the solutions that should come about to the same problem should also be different. It cannot be the same solution. Even if it's the same solution, the way that it's going to be implemented will be different because it's now laced with subtlety. Right? So just ponder about it. That's why it's a continuously evolving thing. Spirituality is a continuously evolving thing. We become a bit more subtle, again we look at our life. We'll get answers, some questions at that level. Again, we become a bit more subtle 6 months down the line. Again, we look at our life. We get some more answers and some more questions. Some of the questions from the past would have been answered, but new questions will come. So it's a continuous process of evolving from one level of subtlety to the next level of subtlety. At each level, looking at ourselves. We don't look at anybody else. Don't look at anybody. Just look at yourself. That's all. And that is a spiritual journey. Okay.
Some hands are raised, brother. Sister Madhuri, I think.
Yeah. Regarding this revelation, intuition. So, our subconscious has memories and also the emotional content, if I'm not wrong. I hope works. Yeah. Then, as we are doing cleaning, revelations can happen. Even our memory can also come back. Our past life or even the creation memory also can come. How can we know that it is a revelation and it's not our subconscious memory? For all these people, or even for me also, if when I say to my mother that I got this, she says that we read in that book, but I'm not that, I don't have that much of memory to remember that in the book, so I can't even say this as revelation also. So I want to know, even for me and even for these philosophers also, how can we know it's a not subconscious memory, it's a revelation?
The answer is given in the whisper that you read.
Mm-hmm.
Revelations are always backed by reality. That's the first thing. So when it is backed by reality, there is a feeling that is associated with the revelation or the backing of the reality, and that gives you a state of serenity and settledness to such an extent that you have actually not experienced that before. Okay. Now, when it's like you asking a simple question, how do I know that I have actually slept during the session of meditation? And my answer will be very simple. My answer is that you are so well versed with your sleeping since day one of your life that if you sleep during the meditation, immediately you recognize I slept. What's the big deal in that? Likewise, We are so well versed with our emotional memory and the past life related issues that immediately we get to know that this is something related to that. Intuition or revelation are all or visions, they are all related to the spiritual experiences that gives you a touch of reality with that particular experience, which is not there in any of the past life memory or the subconscious emotional memory of any of those things. Second thing, when the intuition or the vision or the other things happen, revelation happens, it is backed with a new kind of energy. Just look at it this way. If you are going to recall the past life memory, it's a past life memory already is a burden that you are carrying. It was there in a state of unawareness. Now it has come to a state of awareness. You will not feel lighter because it's a past life memory. How can you feel lighter? You will not feel. In fact, there will be no energy, there will be no lightness, and there will be no backing of the reality. And there is a backing of the reality, you will know for sure because it's always associated with the feeling of serenity, peace, and settledness in the heart. At that time, if we are sensitive, we can also say that the mind is totally inactive. So when the mind is inactive, the subconscious mind is also inactive, something that comes. The word intuition itself is a very beautiful word. It is intuition. That is intuition. What is intuition then? You are in tuition with God. So whatever is God is giving, it's coming down directly to you. That's all it is. To the extent that you are purer, to that extent you will be able to catch the intuition. In other words, intuition you are not going to get until unless there is a kind of association of our soul with God. And intuition always is associated with inspiration. So inspiration, intuition, revelation, and vision. They are all 4 levels. The more higher we go, the more we get all these experiences. The lowest level is inspiration. Now, since the lowest level inspiration itself is associated with increased energy, all the other 3 are associated with increased energy. Buddha had the vision of reality. He felt so serene and peaceful that the entire life he started preaching about it. That's all he did. He stopped all the practice. His practice was over, literally. He started preaching whatever was flowing through him. He started preaching all around the world. So when that state is reached, it is unmissable for anybody. In fact, since you asked this question, I was just reading this. This is in the part 2, Heartfulness Way. The question is this: how do we feel when we are in the lap of such freedom? Freedom is freedom from freedom. You have reached the goal or you are nearest to the goal. Immense poise and depth and unshakable in their being. This is what Badaji is writing about. Such a person is natural in their conduct, humane in their interactions, and divine in their essence. Their presence is centered. They impose on no one and demand nothing. Wherever they may be, in whatever situation, they radiate serenity. They awaken a sense of piety in the heart of others and they are inspired to become like them. This is what is the kind of. There are many other signs of this liberation. So that is given this particular paragraph. I'm just reading from that. There is so many signs that you can actually identify from the Yoga Vasishtha. So one other person was talking about sacrifices. How do we know that we have sacrificed everything? There's a word that is used, sarvatyagi, in Yoga Vasishtha. Sarvatyagi. One who has actually sacrificed everything. So there is a whole chronology of how the king makes a sacrifice. He sacrifices his kingdom, he sacrifices his family, he sacrifices various other things, and then he thinks that he is a sarvatyagi. Then his wife, who is a realized soul, comes to him and says that, where is the Savatyaga? You have not done Savatyaga. Then he gives up the hermitage, he gives up his kamandalu, all the deer skin that he was doing, And then he says, now I become Sarvatyagi. Then she says, no, you have not become Sarvatyagi. So that sequence goes on and on. And then ultimately she says, when you learn to shed or sacrifice your samskaras and allow no fold or no wrinkle in your consciousness, that is when you have become Sarvatyagi. That is when you will be ready for the next stage of the reality. So no samskaras, and then secondly, no folds in the consciousness, no wrinkles in the consciousness. It should be absolutely clear. And we create folds in the consciousness. And that is the chakra that we talk about. So, interesting things. And but I'll just give you one small clue for you people to ponder about. 44 whispers. In 1944, Lalaji says to Babuji that you are now in so much close alignment with the Absolute that you are actually absorbing the Absolute left, right, center. You are immersed in Absolute all the time. But after 1 or 2 years, he says you still have so many samskaras that you have to work on. So don't take this as going side by side. The spiritual journey can actually take a totally different trajectory while the samskaras are still being worked on. And then after that, what happens? Once our samskaras have been worked on, we become capable of taking somebody else's samskara. That is what is going to happen. Okay. And most of the people think that it's a parallel journey. The shedding of the samskaras versus spiritual journey. No, they are not parallel. Of course, they run in parallel, but the speed of the spiritual journey in our system is faster than the shedding of the samskaras. Just remember that.
I think something similar to that also, he was mentioning like movements in the points also, it is not linear. What
Exactly.
masters.
So from the first day itself, first point and 13 point can be worked on. That's what he said. So, and most of the bases actually report this, that multiple points have been worked on. If they are sensitive, they report multiple points. Anyway, we will continue with the question answer session. Aditya.
Yeah, my question is very different from the what we have discussed just now. It was about this daily challenges and stuff. So something recent, like today only, I noticed within me was that there's this person I was annoyed by their behavior, a certain behavior, and I used to get very annoyed with it. Like, "Ye kya hai? Matlab, why? And even today, I was spend the day with the person, and same behavior, and I realized that I'm not annoyed as such, but my mind and body is reacting to it as if it's annoyed. And I was so pissed off at myself for not being able to be not annoyed. And ultimately, I not reacted, but I was like, I was weirded out by the whole thing or the situation. And I was not able to understand how to like move like practically away from the direction towards like what heartfulness teaches us or what has to be done. Because I was able to see myself that not associated with that feeling or that particular thing, that I'm feeling something else, but my habit or the instinct is driving me towards something else. So does something happen over time due to the practice, or is something we do practically as a step to, change that?
Correct. You have answered your question yourself. The practice changes the way you look at the things and the way that you handle the things. And it can happen without your knowledge. One thing to remember is that when we feel annoyed about somebody's behavior, whatever it might be, we need to keep in mind that at that stage of evolution, that behavior is necessary for them. If they evolve to the next level, that behavior becomes unnecessary and it will automatically go off. So now two things are working on them. Nature is working on them to help them shed this particular behavior and move over to the next level. So nature is actually trying to clear out the samskaras. That's part of the bhoga. Second thing is, if they become aware that there is a process that they can actually do to actually get rid of this particular behavior, they can do. But that's the second choice. That depends on the awareness. And awareness is not a very simple thing to have. Actually, a lot of effort is necessary to actually develop that awareness. Awareness is the core of the soul, the true self. That is the core. And very few people actually are able to develop that kind of level of awareness. But it's something that we need to work on. We need to recognize that as a tool that we have been given. If you look at spirituality in the context of Sahajmarg, there are only 4 steps. We start with attention, move to awareness, then to existence, and then to a state beyond existence, non-existence, which is the center. That's all. Only 4 steps. We start from attention, go to the 4 steps. Only 3 steps to climb. But since we do not recognize the importance of awareness, we are stuck in this loop between attention and awareness all the time. That is what happens. What slows down the journey is the slowness with which we actually develop awareness. That is what slows down the journey. And part of the answer to your question is, of course, the practice helps, but being inward directed. When you are inward directed, why should you worry about the cause of the behavior of somebody else? You should tell me that. If they have a particular behavior, they have it. Yes, accept it. Is it something that's going to impact you? If it's something impacting you, you need to learn how to handle it without getting impacted. If otherwise, why should we actually bother about what is the cause of that particular behavior? That's not our job at all. Why should we bother about it? Now, we might say that we want to help the other person. We can help the other person if the other person wants the help. Now, for example, when I walk on the street, I see so many people walking on the street having so many illnesses. Now, I will not go each to everyone and say that, come, I will come and treat you. We will not do that. When they come to the hospital for help, we will obviously try to help them. But the onus of that is with the person, not with us. So, if we ponder about the wrong behavior of somebody, whatever it might be, then all that we are doing is we are actually wrongly directing our attention. Second thing is, if they are directly within our vicinity and we are getting impacted by that, we need to learn how we are going to protect ourselves from that. If they come and seek help from us, fine, we can give some guidance. If they don't seek help from us, you can probably say that also out of your, what do you say, concern for the other person. I've been noticing this. Is it something that you need to or you want to work on? Now you need to give the choice to them. If they say that we want to work on, then you can give further guidance. If they don't want to work on, I think you just need to leave it there. But that also now brings you back to the fact that you need to protect yourself. Because many times it might happen in the family itself. Whatever said and done, one of the family members might have some issues, and then that actually creates a lot of difficulties for you in terms of managing them. And you cannot run away from the family. They'll be there. So we need to learn to handle it. And sometimes avoidance is also a strategy temporarily to handle the problem if you are not able to get rid of it fully. So not to worry about it. But this very fact that your mind was actually tormented by the cause. Why is this fellow having this behavior? It is just because of the fact that your mind is still outward oriented rather than inward oriented. If it was inward oriented towards the spirit, you will not bother about the cause of anybody else's behavior. All that you will settle down is on the thought that everyone has their own journey to make. Let each one make their journey at their own pace. That's what our mind will be settled on.
The theory I understand, practical is very difficult.
That is where the practice helps you. Practicality is the practice, where the practice helps you. Why are you worried about the cause of the behavior of the other person? For the simple reason that the mind, the subconscious mind, still has the tendency for outward direction and getting itself fixed onto certain things in the outside world. That's all it is. It has developed over a period of time, and now you are actually trying to reverse it. Now you are trying to reverse with awareness. Obviously, over a period of time, that's why Babaji says the mind is now metamorphosizing its habits. So you are in the process of metamorphosizing the habits, and the first part of the metamorphosis, you already saw that. You handle it in a slightly different way than in the past. You did not get annoyed, and you could actually see the difference that the annoyment was at the level of the body and mind, not at the level of, at a deeper level. So that's the first realization that you had, first level of sensitivity that you got. Now, the external or the tendency of the mind to flow in that external direction will gradually come down. then obviously the person will exhibit the same behavior maybe 2 years, 3 years down the lane, but then you will no longer be even aware of that particular behavior because you are now well versed in terms of sending the mind inwards, and the mind would have metamorphosis this habit of looking at other people's behavior. So it's a part of the journey. You have been able to get that first part of the answer. The other parts of the answer is going to come just by your practice. Good. Kishore?
Yeah, brother, my question is also an extension to it, kind of. So first thing you said is like it is there that type of that time. What is the evolution they have? But sometimes, recently, if I quote the example, like during the Bhandara, so while preparing for the meditation before that, so by seeing the chaos people were creating to get the book from Daji by any way. Anyway means anyway, and I was seeing people there what is, so that disturbed me quite a lot. It was very much annoying, and I had to go out, had around, drink water and came back because it was not bearable beyond a moment. So like how should we, yes, we are outward in that moment, that is also true, but that is directly impacting. Even after in the last satsang, people directly woke up, even master indicated to sit down. So these things also impact us, though we are not trying to deliberately judge them. How should we protect and how should we accept those things maybe more?
It is a very simple thing that the seed of that particular samskara is still there in the heart. That's all. When that seed is cleared off, these things will not annoy you. It will cease to annoy you. That's all. But we can actually work on it actively. One is you can just wait for the seed of the samskaras to be cleared. Now that's a work that the preceptor will do. But we can actually actively work on it. Why not? In fact, why do you think? Well, see, look at it in two different ways. If somebody is actually feeling restless by hook or crook to go and get the book from the master, look at it this way. They've actually paid more money to the book to get the token. Okay, the book is only 399 when in Kanha. But actually, most of the people actually paid either 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees to just get the token. So their heart wants to actually even are ready to pay more to be able to go near the action. Second, just look at it. When does an Abhyasi actually get a chance to go near the master? Does Abhyasi get a chance at all? The functionaries have a chance to go and meet the master. The preceptors, when they are given the prasad the first time, the permission, they have a chance to go closer to the master. But for a normal Abhyasi, when is it that they have a chance to go and meet the master? Virtually almost nil. Now, obviously, we read in the book that just to be in the physical presence of the master is enough for your entire journey to be charted out in one sitting only. In one day only, the first time that you meet the master physically, that is enough for your entire spiritual journey to be started out, mapped out. We read that in the book. But then remember, many of these abhyasis are still attached to the physical presence of the master. The job of the master is to create opportunities where the abhyasis can actually interact with him more closely. That's the job of the master. Now, there are multiple benefits with what was done. The abhyasis actually paid more, so that is some contribution towards the mission. Whether you like it or not, they have given some amount of money towards the mission. Secondly, by actually getting a chance to go near the master, they actually are able to feel the presence of the master in the level that they feel because they want to feel the presence of the master physically. So when they go near him, they can actually feel that presence. And thirdly, master also has a chance to look at every abhyasi. Although it's not necessary for the spiritual journey, but because we are attached to the idea of physicality, master actually helps you. Even within the bounds of that idea of physicality, master actually helps you to actually move on in life. So that restlessness could be for a very genuine reason that they want to go and meet the master in a more close quarter. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, at some point of time, maybe we'll also feel the same thing at some point of time. Who knows? in different stages of our journey, the restlessness could be different. I've told you that in the 11th point, we feel intense pain and longing. And by the time the 8th point, we are surrendered to the master. Any chance, by hook or crook, we want to go and meet the master. That's what will happen. Although you have shed physicality, the pangs of separation from the master is so much that you just want to feel his presence. Now, you are able to feel the presence in the heart. That's a different thing by 11th point. But at the 11th point, you will feel so much intense pang that you want to be in the physical presence, a wholesome presence of the master, not just a spiritual presence of the master that you have already felt. You want to be in the wholesome presence of the master. That includes physical, mental, and spiritual. Now, so at different stages of our journey, each of us can actually exhibit some different behaviors. So if you look at it from this perspective, there's no reason for us to feel annoyed. It just indicates that they are exhibiting that restlessness to meet the master in a restless way, in a gross way, not a very subtle way. They'll also fine tune their behavior and then grow. Why not?
Yeah. So
All that we
this,
can do is let's pray for them that let them also get fine tuned. If they're already fine tuned, let them get fine tuned further. See, once we feel the presence of the master in the heart, then many of these behaviors will actually automatically come down by itself. It's during the early stages of the journey. In fact, many of the people who took the book, I know them from Bangalore, quite a few of them, almost like 15 to 20 people from Bangalore took the book. Most of them I know. Some of them actually come to my house for sitting. So I know them. So you might wonder, but then that eagerness to actually meet the master, because otherwise they don't get a chance at all. Right? So this is way of actually trying to bless the Abhyasis, creating an opportunity for them to at least come close to him.
yeah,
Otherwise, if you were to call everybody to his house, people will stand in the queue and he'll not be able to finish.
true. And
Right?
especially that 11th point, what you explained, maybe that made more sense to me. Reason, I was also seeing not just Abhyasis, many preceptors also like similar. So maybe they are in that point. That's how. Yeah.
At different
Thank you.
points in the journey, you will feel this for different reasons. Okay? Shrikant.
In one of the whispers, it is mentioned that the incarnate master is the custodian of all the powers of all the masters of all times. And Chariji Maharaj has said, I think in 2011, he has mentioned that in the declaration for your spiritual growth, after me, you have to follow him, Kamlesh. He has said very clearly. But, there is, I mean, we observe that even the elderly, they are not clear with this concept. And, there is thought flowing around that, Babuji is, still to be followed and things like that. And I mean, it's a challenge as to how do we put across because they are all elders and they have, we would have learned about Sajmak, from them. But now, how do we convey to them that
There is no need
incarnate
to convey.
mastery?
Please do not convey anything.
So this is one challenge actually.
They have far more read, more than what we have read. But if they don't want to apply that in their life, it's a choice that they are making. So I don't think we need to worry too much about it. But also remember one thing. You also need to remember some of the elders that we see around, some of them were initiated during Babuji's time. Okay? And during Babuji's time, the initiation was totally different. And during the initiation, one of the promises that they were actually taken from, they used to take it from them, is that they would dedicate their entire life to Sahaj Marg. That was the promise that was taken. So my own preceptor would many times tell me that after going from here, Lalaji is going to ask me, हिसाब किसाब दे दो, क्या किया, तुमको preceptor बना लिया तो क्या कर लिया? We have made you the preceptor. Now you please give me the accounts of what is it that you did with the preceptor thing, that permission that was given to you. And then he keeps saying that, Arey, we are all answerable to Lalaji. Once we go there, we have to answer Lalaji. Remember this point that the master who initiates you is going to be responsible till you get liberation. Don't forget this point. So sometimes, forget as an abhyasi. If you are initiated from a previous master and you continue to take that particular master as your master, in that context, there is nothing wrong because that master is still responsible for the liberation of this particular soul. So to that extent, they are not going to lose because now they cannot suddenly, what do you say, switch their allegiance from this person to the next person. Although logically that is what should happen, but it's quite possible that some of the people, because this particular question has created so much controversy throughout our mission over the last 40 to 50 years, since the time Babuji shed his body. From that time, we've had n number of branches out of Sahaj Marg. Each of them claiming that Babuji is the only highest guru, there can be nobody else after him. This was the premise. So many people broke off from Sahaj Marg, saying that since Sahaj Marg has now moved on with Chariji and there can be no other bigger guru than Babuji, they all want to continue with Babuji. We have n number of branches. Now, what we now see is that gradually many of these branches, people from these branches are also coming back to the realization because after they broke off, the next generation after them, they did not have any guru. The people who broke off actually became their gurus. But then the generation after that, they did not have any guru, so they had to come back to Sahaj Marg and accept Daja. This process is like a churning that is happening. People going out and then people coming in. It's a continuous process of churning. So again, there is no need for us to actually go and tell them about the previous gurus or the role of the current guru. They have more read than that. It is the application of what you read into your practice that is what matters. So let's not ponder or worry too much about what the other elders are saying. I think if they continue to want to hold on to their beliefs, I think they're their choice. We just need to leave it there. Okay. You will see this across all ashrams in India.
Okay.
Arun Kumar.
Brother, why philosophy is very important for a spiritual journey?
I told you that I'll read something, no?
I read that point related to philosophy, but here knowledge based and some sadhana based also there they mentioned points.
In the
But
context of, I'm just reading out from Heartfulness Way Part 2. There's a question here. Raji said, we set goals by making intentions, right? This is the question that Elizabeth asks. Daji says, yes, making an intention is crucial. Our thought energy and attention set a course of action. And our interest propels us to overcome the challenges and the pulls along the way. We remain aware and alert. The awareness and the intention become purposeful knowledge known as gnana in yoga. So there is no question of any gnana without awareness and intention. That's why the third maxim we said about the goal setting and the need for awareness. At every step of the way, if there is one skill that every abhyasi should develop, it is awareness. Now, but knowledge alone is not enough. We must do something. Imagine if your goal is to climb Mount Everest, but you don't step outside your front door. That doing part is known as the karma yoga. So setting the goal and the intention and awareness about the goal is the gnana, the knowledge aspect. Then you have the karma, which is actually doing something about it. And then the third aspect is the interest or the passion or the enthusiasm and love that fuels the endeavor known as bhakti yoga. Action, knowledge, and love. All three are important if we were to achieve anything worthwhile in our life. Action without the enthusiasm of bhakti can become laborious, and knowledge without bhakti can become dry and uninspiring. So you can clearly differentiate. If you can hear the knowledge, you hear the same knowledge from two, three different people. Do you feel inspired? If you feel inspired by what you are hearing, that means there is some backing of experience to it. If you hear the same knowledge and you feel that there is this not even touching you in any way, although you are resisting at the level of the mind, that means it is not yet backed by the experience. That's all it is. So knowledge not backed by experience will be dry and uninspiring. Knowledge is a essential component. I think the same thing Daji pointed out in this Bandar also. The importance of reading the books. He mentioned about it. No, not many people are buying the books. They are not reading the books. The whole point of the SNP program and the training that you are undergoing is to emphasize the importance of getting this. And in the next chapter, I don't want to read the next chapter, he says about the role of imagination in setting our goal. We need to use the imagination as a capacity to kind of get a fair idea what is the goal like. So that as we go near the goal, we will be able to recognize it because we have a fair idea, no, what it will be like. However vague it might be. The vagueness depends on the depth of the imagination. If you have very good imagination, you get very good clarity about the goal even before you go there. Or if you have no imagination, you might not even get a clue what we are talking about. But some people have some amount of imagination, at least they have some clue regarding what is being discussed about in terms of the goal.
Brother, but in world and in India also, we saw many good philosophers, but they not attract towards spirituality, right? Even so, some people they hate the spirituality also.
Brother, philosophy is an attainment of the mind. Spirituality is an attainment of the soul. Philosophy is a progression at the level of the mind, at the level of the intellect. Spirituality is at the level of the mind in terms of the subtlety of the journey of the soul. So there are two different things. There is no necessity that somebody who is evolved in the level of the mind need to be interested in the evolution of the soul. No necessity. It's not necessary. So they don't go hand in hand. If somebody does read and utilize it, it will be useful. If they don't read at all, even then that spiritual journey can occur, but they will not be aware. That's all. In fact, you'll be surprised. Even if you read the 44 Whispers, many of the times that the condition that Babuji is passing through, Lalaji comments about it. That's how Babuji comes to know. And why are the books written? Books are given to us as a signpost. Now, like Lalaji was commenting to Babuji and indicating this is what is happening to him in terms of his journey, who is there for us to do that? There's nobody there for us. Now, does it mean to say that we should not be aware of the journey at all? Nothing of that kind. All the masters have written all these books for us to utilize it for our journey. That's the reason why the books are there. That's the reason why the spiritual anatomy book came. That's the reason why the Heartfulness 2 book has come. If you actually look for signs, you will actually be able to pick up many signs that you can actually relate to as part of your journey in your own spiritual journey. So when we read the book, we need to look at what is it that we can actually learn and apply to our life in our journey. Then the reading will become meaningful. If you just read the book and then memorize it, that is not going to be useful at all. We need to look at what is it that we can grasp and apply to our life. That is the real worth of reading. Every point that you pick up from the book should be something that's going to add value to your journey. If you read the books in that way, then it will actually be a very good enabler for your journey. Intellect. You have struggled throughout your life to develop the intellect. That's the finest instrument that you have developed. Now, when we come to spirituality, we want to keep the intellect quiet. Alright, why do you want to do that? You are saying that when I will develop the best warrior, for the time of war. And when the war comes, I'll say, no, I'm not going to send my warrior. I want to protect him. Let everybody else go for the war. Why do you want to do that? Intellect is your best instrument that you have developed over a period of time. Utilize it for your journey. In fact, the best enabler for your journey in the Pinda Pradesh is your intellect. If you utilize it, you are going to hasten your journey left, right, center. Most people don't do. So remember, when we say karma, bhakti, and gnana, each one has a role at different stages of our journey. In the initial phase of the journey, bhakti is not there, not much. We are only aligned to intellect. So gnana is the easiest thing for us to grasp. Utilize it. Then as you go higher, then the karma comes in. Then you will realize the importance of spiritual work. Then the karma aspect comes in. Now you want to do the volunteer work to shed the egos. One of the easiest way to shed the egos, doing the volunteer work. So now the karma comes in. Now as you go further higher, you start relating to the bhakti. And then bhakti becomes the core aspect. Raja Yoga was there even before Krishna taught Bhagavad Gita. But what did Krishna do is that he incorporated the bhakti aspect to the Raja Yoga to make it more, impactful. But what now Lalaji Babuji, this system has done is that we have combined all these things to bring it on par in such a way that can actually lead to the goal at the fastest rate. So all the three are necessary at all levels. However, the proportion of each one at each level will be different. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, 10 ಕಾಲ ಆಯ್ತು. ಶ್ರೀಕಾಂತ್.
Okay, brother. I think it's time. Maybe some other time.
Sorry?
No, maybe since it's late, or shall I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, Master, regarding imagination, Master has written about Kalpana, the concept of Kalpana. There are four types. I cannot recollect. And Pratibha, he says Pratibha is the highest. So if you could please throw more light on this as to how we can use Kalpana for our spiritual progress, that aspect.
I'll just, one or two aspects I'll tell you. See, the first thing that we actually shed in spiritual journey is Kalpana. One of the first things. Because you are actually going towards reality. Right? When you are going to the actual reality, why do you want to have imagination? The more the imagination, the more you actually go away from the reality. Right? Having said that, we don't use imagination at all during meditation. We clearly say no imagination. Don't imagine the divine light. That's what we say. However, during the cleaning process, we say use your imagination actively. So, imagination in our system has a very important role. Daji talks about imagination in the context of what Einstein said. Einstein said that in certain instances, imagination is far more powerful than knowledge. Okay? Because knowledge laced with imagination actually gives you more clarity about the goal. So I'll just read it here. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination represents new possibilities and conceptual thinking. It is a powerful projectile capacity of the mind, an important aspect of human consciousness that allows us to imagine things into our being. So it's a projectile power of the mind. Where does it project to? It projects into the consciousness. About what? About the goal. It is a basis of sankalpa, the subtle, powerful intention which is the foundation of all our spiritual practices. We imagine states into being through the power of our thought. So he's linked about the kalpana and the sankalpa. And if you just look at these two words, what is common to both of them? Kalpana and sankalpa.
Kalpa.
Kalpa. And I want the homework for you is what does this kalpa mean? Just do the homework. Because all that you are doing is you are adding sun before kalpa and then you are adding na at the end of kalpa. That's all that you are doing. But the core is kalpa. That's why he is now relating these two, kalpana and sankalpa. And all the work in our spiritual journey is done by sankalpa only. The sankalpas that you make creates your reality. That's all. Because you energize that sankalpa. So the more we become purer, the more our sankalpas will be in the right direction towards the goal. That is what is supposed to happen. And there are 3 levels of sankalpas: the subtle, subtler, and the subtlest. You will read about it after you have passed your exams, and then when you start training as a preceptress, you will read about this. 3 levels of sankalpas: subtle, subtler, and the subtlest. Likewise, you have various dimensions of kalpana. But in our realm, since our journey is going to the core of reality, the first thing that we shed in the Pinda Pradesh is imagination. However, for a person who starts spiritual journey, who is in the first point, they are very keen to imagine the goal because they want to be given a goal. There, to some extent, the imagination actually acts as some kind of a basis for them to continue the practice. Otherwise, they actually lose interest in practice. So if we were to tell a new abhyasi that it's an endless goal that you are going towards, they'll not come at all. Nobody will come. You have to give some kind of a definite thing that this is the end. Now, even when I use the word end, it is giving a clue to the word that I spoke about, kalpa. The end is also a kalpa only. So all the 3 are kalpa: kalpana, sankalpa, and the end is also a kalpa. So that gives you some clue regarding what is the meaning of the word kalpa. Okay. So do this homework and let us know next time around. Okay. Okay, then thanks for your time. I think you people have been a bit slow in what do you say, warming up today. So I was a bit surprised when he started saying that you please raise your hands to read the first paragraph or second paragraph. Everyone was actually pondering whether to raise or not. I think you need to get your mojo back, energy back, and say, no, 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 we will be actively participating in the session. So thanks for your time. I think you still are not come out with we call it as the gungu. In the terms of the nasha of the bandara. And Babu Daji writes the strongest of all the nasha is the spiritual nasha. That's what he writes in the heartfulness way. If anybody who has any other nasha, if they get a taste of this nasha, they'll leave every other nasha. Okay. Anyway, no problem. Have a nice, good sleep. We will catch up again on Friday as usual, and brother will continue with the next part of the presentation. Okay. And thanks very much from our end and your end to Jaisima brother for doing the presentation. Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Pa. Namaste again. Good night.
Thank you, brother. Good night.